Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith, episode 280. I co-host Dave Anderson from Dallas and also Ilya Samyanov from Orlando. Welcome, guys. Welcome, listeners.
Hi, how are you guys?
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
Good to
Dave.
be here.
Yeah, this podcast will come out in a few days on Christmas Day. So many things with Christmas. Vic Braden, one of our pillars. I always say Vic is the Christmas tree, and we have some really, really good ornaments. One thing I like to have kids do, started doing this some time ago, is call them all in and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Tennis is a gift. A lot of gifts given out on Christmas Day, and thank your parents, and tennis is a gift. I remember going to Catholic school, and the nuns, don't open your presents until everybody's been to church. Everybody's been to Christmas Mass. And then I had a sister who only went to 12 o'clock noon Mass, and it was a tough wait. Open the presents. Tell us about grandchildren. Dave, what do you got in store for Christmas? Santa Claus coming?
Yeah, he's going to be coming to the Brookhaven Court Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. for a three-zone tradition and doubles attack, but he'll be here too. No, I mean, they get more than they need. We kind of enjoy spoil them, but then they have grandparents in Fort Worth too, so they get a couple of different Christmas evenings, but ours is Christmas Day. Yeah, excited.
The Canadians, for example, we have a group of Canadians here. Our listeners, Dave and Ilya were just here 36 hours ago. And the Canadians, they all live so close to the Canadian border because of the weather. But I think it's, when you're saying that, I think it's a really plus when you grow up close to your grandparents. I think, the United States is such a big place. I think that's something with Coco Golf. I think it's a plus. I read where a few years back, two homeschool teachers were grandmother one and grandmother two, or both her grandparents teaching here. One thing with Christmas, so many top tennis players through their junior career, they're not home for Christmas. That certainly is a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Let's move on before we just touch upon the workshop. Tennis Heaven. Recently, Dennis VanderMeer's wife, Pat, passed away. And shortly after, just a week or so ago, Vic's wife, Vic Braden, passed away. Mark Spann, let's shout out to Mark, the late Mark Spann. Rest in peace. What comes to your mind? He just passed away yesterday. What comes to your mind today when you think of Mark Spann?
Well, I mean, he was a big personality, great guy. Always knew when he was in a room, full of confidence. Played him several times in a couple different tournaments and really enjoyed competing with him. I know the background. He comes from tennis pedigree and all that, but yeah, he'll be missed. It's hard to believe. When I got the news, I couldn't believe he was not going to be here anymore, but I haven't seen him in a long time. Spoke to him, I guess, 10 years ago was probably the last time I spoke to him. He sent a kid down here, had a player down here.
I know Ilya worked. Yeah, complications, prostate cancer. He was in the hospital for a surgery for his Achilles tendon, but then there was an infection. I understand he was in the hospital and died of a heart attack while in the hospital, 61 or 62. The teddy bear. What comes to your mind, Ilya?
Yeah, I got was spending with him a few summers at Julian Krinsky, and I just remember the energy and him engaging everybody. Everybody had a tremendous respect for the guy, and I just remember the presentations before every day for the camps in the summer. We were I forgot one of those colleges next to the Villanova. It was like a big stadium court where they used to play the Billie Jean King Cup, the World Tennis, the team matches. And he would be in that stadium basically starting our day during Krinsky. It was the presentations. I mean, it was a show. Everybody was pumped. So he's going to be greatly missed that day for tennis. And rest in peace.
Yeah, greatly missed. Sad day for tennis. Well put. But I didn't get through all of it today, but most of it, there's a podcast. It's almost 2 hours and 2.5 hours with Mark Spann. Yeah, his mother, Ann Shilcott, she won Wimbledon doubles. He worked with his mom. By the time he came to Texas, actually Craig Tiley, I think Daryl Weiss sang Craig Tiley to us, and Craig Tiley sending Mark Spann to us. And yeah, so then from our place, he spent 25 years working with Julian. He went home to his mom. She totally changed how she taught tennis. And I know that mother was really grateful. I have a letter written from his mother thanking me. And you guys I mentioned this in the workshop, a Wimbledon champion, for studying Vic Braden word by word, she said. And Mark told me a highlight for him was one of his highlights was being at Wimbledon coaching with Jason Weirsmith with his mom. So that, he made it to Wimbledon with his mom. Yeah, she's in the Final Eight Club. You should listen to our podcast. I say teddy bear. Mark was really into brain typing. He's talking about being a sensitive idealist. And he found out that he really, really struggled with always thinking about, which is not all bad, about the other person's feelings. You don't want the other person to feel bad. And I remember you said this past weekend, Dave, that, feelings don't have facts. Mark, he was more and more positive with each passing year with the business he owned, Upper Dublin, with his longtime friend, Victor. Victor went to Ferris State. Mark said he was very, very open to learn what Mark had learned at Tyler Junior College. But I do remember Mark telling me that he certainly enjoyed just being a coach versus the stress of owning a building and having to worry about what condition the roof is in. I've talked to a number of people. I think besides the immediate protocol with someone passing, such as a funeral, it'd be great if we could come up and talk to some people. That could be done in Philadelphia, where Mark spent so many years. Is have some type of memorial and possibly raise some money to bring over a South African kid, because it's so difficult with the currency exchange between the rand and the dollar. Yeah, I think, sad Dave, Mark Spann. I know Craig Tiley, I don't think the rumors turned into a fact, but it's on the docket that he may come and be the CEO of the USTA. I remember Rob Krychek, his son Austin, talking about grandchildren, and Rob and Sherry Krychek are now grandparents. Austin, his wife, had a baby, but Rob had read where Craig said it would take 10 years when he became the director of player development, 10 years to have a network of coaches in the United States. But certainly if Tiley were to come to USTA as the new CEO, you would have a network of coaches. Mark Spann would be someone who'd be the top of the list. In this day and age, people are living longer, 61, 62. That's so young. Yeah, let's talk about our workshop, guys. Ave Maria. Let's do a commercial. Why don't you go first, Ilya? Well, let's go with Dave first, because Ilya, you've already been here several times. Dave, why don't you tell us, what do you think of Ave Maria?
Yeah. I mean, I'm working with a realtor to get a second home down there. It's a cool place.
Seriously, you're teasing though.
No, but I've been on Zillow looking up stuff. It's a really cool little place. You feel the city itself. You feel like you're in the movie Pleasantville. If you've ever seen that movie, it's just kind of a throwback to a different era. It's very simple, very peaceful. I hope that expansion doesn't taint it too much over the next 10, 15 years. I have a feeling that city's going to keep its charm. Maybe there's zoning that even will protect it. Yeah, what a cool place. I think you have a great setup there for 9 months of the year, and yeah, it was a really, really a treat for myself and the kids that I brought with to come down.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the fundraiser. Ave Maria, founded by the founder of Domino's Pizza, Tom Monahan. Yeah, it's a Catholic college, a university, small, less than 2,000 students. You drive in. Johan Fruling does so many things with us. I drove in with him the first time, and there's a sign that says founded in 2007. He said, "Oh, this place is still a teenager." So it's very, very young. What comes to your mind, Ilya, with Ave Maria?
Well, first of all, how secluded it is away from society, basically. Like when you see on the road that there is a panther is crossing, that's something different.
A lot of wildlife.
Yeah, a lot of wildlife, and especially when you drive from Ave Maria to Boca, It's just like the stretch over the Everglades, alligators on the sides and panthers crossing. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
set up a place right in the village so I could walk to everything. But initially, we stayed at the National Country Club and big golf course. I don't know how many holes they have. Alligator count. I would say on a daily basis, we saw at least one alligator. And welcome to Florida.
yeah. It's my third time coming in there, and it looks like it's growing. Every time I come in, it just gets bigger. There's so much construction around going on, but it's a very unique place.
Yeah. I hope Dave's right that it maintains its charm. Yeah, we've only been here 81 days, but you can turn things around pretty quick in a short period of time. It's my 28th year on a college campus and second fundraiser. First one was Sunrise to Sunset, but I appreciate both of you coming in to help with this one. We had 48 people. We had Russia, we had Canada, we had Greece, maybe a couple more countries, but it was mostly Canadians and Americans, but certainly from California to Minnesota, from here, there, and everywhere. But yeah, let's review the workshop. I know, Dave, Christmas time. Appreciate you being on. I know you've got a hard stop with a function with the grandkids, but we had grandparents too. That was cool. We had one a grandmother from Ireland and a grandfather from England. Tennis is such an international sport. That's certainly one of the privileges of tennis is meeting people from here, there, and everywhere. International sport. Yeah, let's go around the horn. Dave, what do you want to talk about first with this review for the students? I know besides you and Ilya, Dave, we had Johan and Andy Fitzel. He wasn't here in person, but got his good-looking mug up on the screen, and he spoke to us from Germany. But go ahead. Why don't you? We'll share a few things from the workshop.
Yeah, I mean, I think the name of it, the Golden Growth Opportunity, I think that, that name summed it up in several different ways. I think, number one, to pay tribute to the people that paved the way here for us as tennis teachers, tennis coaches, that the foundation of the whole GreatBase. I hate to use the word system, but the combination of a lot of brilliant people, put together for the art of tennis teaching, the science of tennis teaching. I think that from that end, and then I think golden growth, meaning, it's just what a great chance for every single level of play. I mean, there were really beginning type juniors there and or adults kind of early on in their first lap of tennis. And then you had multiple gold ball winners. And I don't really think people can understand that it really didn't matter which end you were on. If you kept your ears open and you paid attention and you were trying to get every ounce out of everything that was said and done there, you were going to come out of it at the end of the day on Saturday evening, a totally different tennis player in terms of your knowledge base to ultimately coach yourself and become a more independent thinker and to be more of an asset back at your program or club where you're currently at, whether you're a coach, player, parent, it didn't matter. My hope is everybody that is a part of it, including myself, I mean, that every person carries it. You gotta wake up today and carry it and continue tomorrow. And, you keep building on it. But yeah, it was brilliant. It was a lot of fun. Other than getting 90 minutes of sleep on Saturday night, Sunday morning before we hit the airplane, it was good. Yeah, well, we were, just for the listeners, I mean, we went to Steve's to kind of wrap it all up and see his new house, and we were sitting around the table, and we could have, I mean, had we had the opportunity, we could have kept going for another 12 hours. But I looked at my phone had an alert from American Airlines that said you're boarding in 6 hours. And we hadn't packed or anything, and I, we had to drive back to Fort Myers, so I was like, I think we better wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one for me. It's like one of the highlights. It just was finally meeting Dave in person. I mean, it's amazing how GreatBase works, the network works, and all the names, and you're listening to the podcast. It was an honor to be on the court with him and actually finally meeting him and seeing him being on the court and working with a group and sharing the knowledge. That was one of the highlights for sure.
Thank you.
Definitely a lot of gems.
I remember who I worked with, but not necessarily who I worked with when. Like with the passing of Mark Spann, who was also being trained at the same time way back when. But yeah, to make the connections, I would have guessed that you two had already met in person.
Yeah.
One thing with the
It
workshop,
felt like we met, but
Yeah, it certainly did, didn't it?
yeah.
I remember being at Dave's place with 25 kids from South Africa. Shout out to Petrus Kukimore. How do you pronounce his name? Petrus? Anyway.
Yeah, Pietro.
Anyway, Dave watched him work for a few minutes and said, "Oh, he's already been with you." And I said, "No, I just met him at the airport." But that let you know that he had really spent a lot of, serious time looking at the content. Now, one thing just to start is we put everybody in a circle and thinking of Pat VanderMeer as well, learning names from Dennis VanderMeer. You make a circle, and I put Anderson and Ilya to my right because they were going last, and we had Johan right there next to them, and if someone struggled, I told Johan, okay, help him out, just give him 5 seconds, and then yell the name out. But 48 people, you have someone who's 10 years old, and it's amazing they can learn all the names. But how you do it is I went first, and I say I'm Steve, and the person next to me, this is Steve, and I'm Candace, and the next person, this is Steve, I'm Candace, I'm Rachel, and you just keep going around. And then we had some people come in that weren't there on the first day, and we didn't take the time to learn all the names again, but just quickly go around in the circle. But then I started with just let's go fast and let's do core information and go over the parts of the racket, cover the court, the realities of the court. Went quickly through grips. We came back and went through grips a second time in the classroom. But we went with the Welby Van Horn body balance system, and that should be mandatory for anybody who's learning to teach beginning tennis. And then we did checkpoints, Braden checkpoints, and certainly had checkpoints for many people, but like the airplane pilot, check in the cockpit. And before you take off, you check the checkpoints. That tracing the swing up against the fence, that's magical, though, how that works.
Mm-hmm.
If people would read Vic's book, Teaching Children the Vic Braden Way, you can still get a hold of those books. And, then, okay, now we'll shadow swing. And then from there, application. We tell people, okay, static balance is something that's faded away. It's almost extinct. But yeah, let's just go through a few different things. Go ahead. We'll go around the horn. Dave, why don't you go next?
Well, I can tell you from ideas come from ideas, and it's fun. I love teaching tennis, just teaching tennis, but I also love being around people and just trying to hear things. And you asked at the end of it, you kind of hollered out while we were getting balls up, did you hear anything new? And there's definitely so many gems that I took away. But the thing that's cool is when you've been around somebody, as I have you for 40 some years, you have things occur out on the court, and then you're like, man, when I used that for 20 years. Why didn't I use that? You know what I mean? Things come and go, not even because you're lazy or whatever. You just get going on one direction, and all of a sudden a little tip that you. So that's what I really enjoyed. I think hearing Ilya, the way he presented things, just observing everything. Even though I was supposed to be, conducting as well with you the workshop, I think to me, the learning is the fun. I think that it's just always great to pick up little things, and you get to a point, I think, where it's not big things, but a lot of little things turn into big things, and so to me, that's what really stood out, just on a selfish level from my end. And I think that the kids that I was with, as we had a review, and I've asked them to put their notes together, send everybody thank you emails. That doesn't happen by Wednesday. Let me know, and I'll put Cole in all of their stockings for Christmas. I was impressed with the kids overall, the way they hung in. Impressed with the majority of the parents. A few couldn't quite make the grade, but that's to be expected. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, it's great to have everybody involved. Yeah, for the 3 days, we charged $365. I mean, with the idea that we would share things that would be able to help people 365 days a year. We went 3 8 hours. I think we certainly could review the format, but so it was 24 hours. That's another powerful number. Yeah, Scott Reed was there, and Scott's amazing. His daughter was with him. Talk about grandparents. His father, Larry, is like the nicest guy in the world. We had a coach from Greece I hadn't seen in 18 years. The Greeks say, the Americans say, I should say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The Greeks say the apple falls under the tree. But Scott Reed, what a great guy. And, like 25 years. He played, junior tennis, small college tennis. He now is a harbor pilot. He's based in Houston. And for him to tell people the GreatBase helped him get through what he had to do. I don't think with him so much from a character standpoint, but just the process. To say, okay, I've got to learn to do this. But one thing is that he's always sending me clips of Nick Saban, and for years and years I said teaching is information transfer. But just today, I listened to a Nick Saban quote. He said, "Teaching is inspiring people to learn." Inspiring people to learn. I know I'm a preacher for trying to inspire people to practice away from the program and practice on their own. But go ahead, Ilya.
Well, once again, thanks for letting me be part of this workshop. It's always an amazing experience and growth as a coach and as a student as well. Dave just mentioned, and you mentioned, little things. I love how Dave tied it in the end, the third day, learning names. Why does it do that? Yeah, it's important to know everybody's name, but it's just getting yourself into the learning experience, repeating yourself. That's it just hits home. So it gets your light bulb on. The way you learn names, when you're in the practice, when you're in a workshop like this, just use that technique. I mean, it's a skill. Hopefully, the kids will take that with them as well. Certainly, I have. There's no excuses, right? A, B, C, D. You can't complain or make excuses. Also, it was 3 days and 8 hours a day, but like you said, there's different levels, and I think the information presented, it should inspire you to dig more and become and study more. How much can you cover in 3 days? It definitely should inspire you to go dig deeper and motivate you just to know that there's so much more. It was great to see some students who were already in the program before, and it's like Dave, you said, it's great stuff for the boys who came with you. Just go back to the well and go back to basics. And when you're on the stage, those gems, those little things should stick with you more. I know that one of the boys that started with you like 2 months or 3 months ago. What a great opportunity for him just to kind of be a little bit on stage and just to get this basic information more kind of stuck in the back of your brain, almost be part of your DNA. No, again, that was a great pause. It was great to see Andy on the screen again. That was a great addition on the big screen. It was bigger than a room.
I think one thing with Andy, Dave mentioned there were some beginning juniors are fairly new to it, and then people won national championships at the junior level. But then for Andy to chime in, and it's really the same formula working at the pro level. Dave, let me ask you. Ilya has really added to our program with the rhythm, the beat, the metronome. What were your thoughts with that?
Yeah, I loved it. I love the metronome. I think it. That was big on my notes. My personal notes, make sure that starting, January 5th, when we go back to our school programs and our full-time online stuff, that's just going to become a staple. There's so many advantages to it, and I told Ilya that we've done that. I've had Coach Andreas run that a lot with a whistle, and he gave me some good feedback, Ilya did, on why he uses the voice and those kind of things, or what the sound rather. So it's going to become a big part of our daily or our weekly training. I think every program in America could use it. I don't see any downside teaching the segments of the swing and then the rhythm of the swing. And then, you can go a lot of different directions with it.
Ilya, tell us how you came up with that.
The whole story, how they kicked me out from musical school. No, I just clicked. I was 5 years old, 6 years old, Soviet Union system, and so my mom put me in musical school. But again, I can't sing. I don't hear any notes, and I was cheating basically when we were warming up for the class. My teacher would be putting me away, turning me away from the piano, and I was facing the shiny closet, and I could see whatever the note she was pressing. So a couple of weeks goes by, and I'm guessing every note, and she thinks that I'm Mozart. Calls all the teachers from the school, puts me in front of them, and turns me into the crowd, and I fail. So she finds out my secret to my beautiful hearing and kicks me out of the school. And there's no second chances in that school. So 5 years old, and so music kind of stuck up with me. I played around a little bit with like making music, DJing, and the metronome was part of it. And it's kind of one day, especially starting to work with Steve, there's so many checkpoints, and there was a metronome, kind of rhythmic metronome is just kind of put together because so it's because the GreatBase was more inspiring than my music experience. Checkpoint was just part of it.
But for the listeners to have 7 beats to the forehand and then get at the point where it's just 1, 2, 1, 2. I can remember, was it cybernetic interval training for tennis with Stan Smith and Chris Sever, and supposedly it was you watched the tape one time and it was similar. Cybervision. Yeah, I rattle off the title of the book. It was impressive, the sound, like just with the feet. So, like you said, a lot of good things go away. That definitely had a lot of validity. Cybervision. Of course, one was we talked about brain typing too, with both Everett and ISTJ, Smith and ISTJ, but one a baseliner, one a net rusher, both number ones. Yeah, repetition is key. I think the one thing that came out loud and clear throughout was the GreatBase is a language. It's a system of systems, and it's just putting everything from Bill Jacobson to Peter Burwash to Dennis VanderMeer, all the different people, Jim Verk, all the different people together. We broke things down to its simplest form, doubles. Show people, okay, here's a throwing motion with the Welby Van Horn balance method and 1, 2, 3 split step, and have people just playing toss underhand, what they used to do at picnics, throw, catch, hot potato, and then say, no, only one side has rackets, 2 players have rackets, and you only toss the ball to their forehand volleys. And then that's how you can build the drill instead of saying, okay, you just can't say, okay, now go play doubles. It becomes instruction, destruction. So it's like anything that's worthwhile, it takes time, and it's not, if you truly go about tennis the right way, there's no instant gratification, skill acquisition. What about thoughts on brain typing, Dave? And how the coaches, parents, players thought of that?
Well, the people I spoke to that obviously made an impact on them. I think, it would be good for the parents to go home and take the exam, like you said, take it for the child and compare it and figure out kind of where the truth lies a little bit more. But I think the key thing is that when those kids came out, before they showed the sheet, the 4 I was with, I turned around and they said, guess what we are? And I got 3 out of the 4 perfectly, and then I was 1 letter off on the 4th. The key was, I think some people, they got to learn it's not an excuse, right? And I think the statement I made about, and you've made it many times, it's probably where I got it from, is whatever you are, work on being the opposite. And, I think that's so, so critical to rounding yourself out as a human being and also to, becoming a better tennis player. Like there's kids we have in our program, like every program, that, you'd love to hear them yell something out and throw a racket occasionally. you feel like that might be a breakthrough moment for them. And then there's others that, there's not enough duct tape at Ace Hardware to try to tape up their mouth to keep them shut. So yeah, I've always been fascinated by it. I tried in my life to do a lot of reading on that and other things related to it. Very, very helpful, I think.
For the listeners at our workshop, or the listeners of the podcast, go to our website, read the article. First of all, the exam quiz that Dave mentioned is part of the article that the late Vic Braden and Joel Trucker wrote, and it made it all the way to the cover of Tennis Magazine. That article is posted on our website. Certainly, we have a podcast about it. There's many books. It's based off the Myers-Briggs. The mother and daughter in the 50s put this system together. It's a tool. Doesn't put anybody in the box. I like to tell people, old people don't really understand this, but Stefan Edberg and John McEnroe had the same brain type. Let's go to the running side of it. It was great with Johan Fruling. Just not enough time in the day. 3 days, hopefully it was just enough to inspire people to dig deeper. And I'm often telling people they just have a shallow understanding of GreatBase if they just know the application and drills for stroke production, because there's so much more to it. But the mile time, the beep test, there's many tests that we put the juniors through, leg lifts, touching their toes, sitting down, putting their hands on their toes. It's just amazing how you can turn everything into a test. We had several tournaments. A target tournament, that's a test. We had 4 target tournaments. We call it the 4 majors, starting with the Australian, which is around the corner. But I think for kids to leave and just know what their mile time is, and the parents are just shocked. And a lot of times parents just don't know. I've heard people say on both the men and women's side, there's easily less than 20 people that get up every day with the idea that the program they're running is going to win a national championship. I mean, I know there's D1, D2, D3, junior college, NAIA. But I would say that most programs still want to know, hey, what's your mile time? Back in the day, our PE teachers would know your mile time before they knew your last name. Ilya, why don't you go say a few things about the running?
Yeah, the test. The one word, it's going to go back to running. It's like, if you cannot teach character, you cannot teach technique. You improve your character. It's like start in the gym, Ivan Lendl, chicken or the egg, you want to get stronger mentally, you go run. So for some of the kids who are returning, it's, they're around information, but, it's kind of like you would be looking at, I'm going to use this word, UTR. What is your UTR? I think it was mentioned by Cole Reeves in the beginning. What is UTR fitness-wise? What are UTR tactically? What are UTR technically? What is UTR with serve? What is your UTR believing in your goals? Or UTR forecasting. So if your UTR of your work ethic is at 1, it's just gonna drop everything else in your scale, by multiple. So, if you're coming to the, if you're jumping on a plane or you're driving across the country and your mile time is not below average, but in desperate need of improvement, you're kidding yourself. It's a little bit harsh, but you just have to make that first step. Like before you're getting yourself a fitness trainer, go and wake up every day and do push-ups every day and sit-ups. Do something simple but consistent. Make that first step. Fitness-wise, again, we ran a mile for the older kids. The fastest time was 5:20, and the slowest time I think was 9:20. So it's a big spread. So for somebody who is on the bottom, it's like, Jim Langer, storytelling for mental toughness. What are the kids who are finished up on the bottom of that list? What are they telling themselves? Oh, I don't like to run and this is stupid, and then just going back to their house like this? Or they're inspired that they need to just run more. In order for you to be a faster runner, you got to go run. So that's the biggest. I'll be more nervous about that response. How do they think about their time? Are they pushing themselves away from running, and that's why somebody needs to be in their corner, like a coach or a parent, because sometimes, kids will come out of like running and hurting here and here, and then parents will give them a hug, and it definitely creates a bad story that's not gonna improve anything. I love the deep fast. I think deep fast is amazing because you're just getting a number basically after every 20 meters. And the way you can push yourself, I usually yell at kids, just your first two steps. So when the things get tough, when you take off, when you're already tired, just make strong first two steps and then see where it takes you. Because usually in the deep fast, the kids when they get to a certain number, they're not even trying, or they're tired, they're not even trying to make the first two steps. They're giving up before they even give themselves a chance. Yeah, so, going back to the running program, you have to be an athlete first, tennis player second. How it goes, that list would grow. Fighter, athlete, tennis player, or dreamer, have an idea, what do you want to be? And then have to have a self-belief system. Then you're going to be a fighter to fight for that goal, and you're going to be an athlete before you're a tennis player. So,
yeah,
footwork is equally as important as tennis player, as a racket work.
No, thanks. I mean, so many comments. The first step out the door is the toughest door. Running makes the water taste better. Alan Webb, he had the record 3:46 for a high schooler in the U.S. I think the record stood for 19 years. I've been stalking him. He's a coach here at Ave Maria, again, Catholic college inland from Naples, Florida. And I told the athletic director, I said, yeah, he's on Letterman. Of course, a lot of young people don't remember the TV show, the talk show, David Letterman. I asked him, I'm, old guy and been around a long time. And I said, I've never personally been introduced to someone who broke a 4-minute mile. My minivan can't do a 4-minute mile. And I said, how can you become a 4-minute miler? And he goes, that's easy. You just have to live without oxygen. So, but here at Ave Maria, hopefully, we get a few nicer things facility wise, but, he's already done a remarkable job with the cross country team, and the track team, and they don't have a track. It's kind of great to hear you say you don't need a track. It's like the old Pancho Seguro, find the worst facility, the worst lights, and, the court with the most cracks, and that's where you go and you practice. I think with a workshop, one thing is say, okay, one thing that should have been done better is that we really didn't cover enough. We didn't do enough on charting. We certainly talked about stats and how points end. Points only end 3 ways. Yeah, I know Ashley Hobson was here, who's done a number of things in tennis. We'll have to get him on as a guest. He really liked the fact that, and he's met some coaches that I've trained. When he worked for VanderMeer, it was Tom Gilly, and then he worked for Peter Burwash, it was Chris Carey. So he met some coaches over the years, and there's been others. But what comes to your mind that we could have done? I think charting comes to my mind. How about you? Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think, the audience was pretty diverse. I mean, I could see a workshop that is held. I don't know if I would have done, obviously you can do things different, but I think there could be a workshop that's devoted toward, tournament players. And I wouldn't say it has to be people playing level ones or what they call them now, the nationals, but, pretty serious tournament players. And, we could devote a whole weekend to that. And because I think that the scope of the tactical knowledge and establishing workouts through information that's gained through charting of whatever, you could cover 15 different charting methods or more. It's unlimited, really. But whether it's just isolating it to, the one particular style, but I think a workshop could be based entirely on that, and we could have a lot of knowledge shared, and then how to structure workouts back home for the people through that. Studying film, having players study their own film, but having coaches study, we did get to cover some points, but there's only so much you can do. And I mean, the time, even though the days were long, it still flew by so quickly. But I love to have kids just like you said, we, put up the tripod and go, and then they watch their match during their downtime, their break. The whole match is a lot. That's one of the reasons I do like that swing vision is, you can eliminate the between point time, which I think is very valuable, but you could watch points and an entire stature match within a very short amount of time. People need to see themselves, and they need to become more aware of what they're doing. And I think, it would be a totally different workshop than the kind that was run past weekend, but I think it would be a very beneficial one, and it might be interesting to try that.
Yeah, no, I agree. You could just focus on, you could just focus on charting. I remember years ago with Bill Jacobson with CompuTennis, Carlos Goffey was part of that. It was Nike Dunlop. Remember, they would always have a touring pro. And, we would go and teach the parents how to chart. That's something I think that should have never faded away is teaching parents how to chart. If they are going to be proactive, fact-finding information. Don't tell someone what you think. Tell them what you know. What comes to your mind, Dave, as far as, Ilya, as far as something that we could have emphasized more?
Well, again, it's like they said, 3 days, 8 hours a day, but it's still not enough time. I mean, you can really go in depth adding things, but it's just not going to be enough time to cover it. But just something like doubles. I mean, we covered doubles, but I mean, there's just a different level of covering doubles. And I mean, there's, I know you have different applications, how to start it, tossing balls to each other and throwing balls, positioning and all of that. I mean, I know that the group dynamics were there, but I like this idea what they said too. It's like do two different groups, just break it down more in a detail setting, I would say. Group dynamics, that's the whole assessment. I mean, you have courses. I mean, that's
we did take one player, Ani, who had not attended before, and produced a take-home tape from a technical standpoint, narrated slow motion analysis.
Yeah.
We took Dave's 4 accomplished juniors and did, with 2 other college players, we did point analysis. Yeah, there's only so much time. But again, I think the Nick Saban thing, inspiring people to learn. I remember Vic saying this all the time. Yeah, I did a workshop with 50 people, shared 50 points. They misinterpreted 50 different ways, or they interpreted, not necessarily misinterpreted. They interpreted in 50 different ways, and now do the math. But I think with the technologies that are available, I mean, I think, just pushing a few buttons. Of course, Johan Fruling did that, and the technology is not in my world, but it's very simple to, we're walking to a room and now it's Andy Fissell, and we need to do a better job reaching more people with what we've assembled, GreatBase curriculum. So few people really even know what it's based on. Educational merit, the history behind the GreatBase.
And one thing might be, Steve, that, in the future, and it'd be fun to hear if any of the listeners, but just to use so many of the contacts that you have or we have and do what we did with Andy and just have a little hour segment next time for, one of the premier college coaches up there and on the screen and doing a Q&A for some of the parents and the kids in the room on, what that pathway looks like and things they should be thinking about. Even, I know we could provide the answers for them, but it might add something special to have a Steve Denton or somebody up there and be able to provide a perspective on what they should be thinking about as they're journeying through the tennis.
Yeah, no, I think also to the school of hard knocks. In other words, it's great to talk about the upcoming Australian Open. I'd like to tell people. We get ridiculed for having people hit off a tee. That doesn't happen in little league baseball. But I always say, hitting off the cone is match point. But, the hard yards and doing what you don't want to do. And as Roger Federer said about his career, he's lucky to have the right coaches at the right time. Stage development is so important to be doing the right things at the right time. With the juniors, we had 12. We were down to just 9 today. It's the holidays, but and we have more coming in. But some of the players, we were still doing video today. Still, going, okay, you're close to having a palm down serve, but when you throw, you don't have palm down, and you want to be a Milan farmer, and so we need to touch more lives. I think that's one nice thing about, say, Mark Spann, looking back and talking to a couple of his closest friends. I said that about Mark's grandmother. Mark and I talked about doing that. Is that, Mark, let's, the new year coming up, this podcast will come out Christmas Day. So therefore our next podcast will come out New Year's Day. And we did that a year ago. We can do it again, but just from Ann Shilcutt, what are 10 key points? One would come back to me is like the Welby Van Horn balance approach. Joel Trucker, the book is coming out on Charlie Passerelle, which he wrote. And, he knew that I had a lot to do with Vic Braden, but he didn't know that I had a lot to do with Welby Van Horn until someone told him to call me to get photos for the book. And, I hooked him up with Stuart Van Horn. But certainly, I look forward to reading Charlie's book. He became such a great player. But, so few people just carrying that torch from tennis teachers from the past. That would be almost like a football coach not knowing the 3-point stance. But let's go around the horn one more time, Dave, and we'll wrap it up. Christmas coming up. Merry Christmas, everyone. Dave, what do you got?
Well, like I said, it's the journey. There's no point of arrival for us as players, coaches. Doesn't matter. It's what you learn after you know it all that really counts. To quote, I believe it was John Wooden, but might have been someone else. But that attitude, I think, has to be ingrained around the dinner table of every house. If people still eat dinner anymore together as a family, but it is increasingly apparent as I'm going, through my life, living on the court, dealing with kids, dealing with families, that the attitude of the household is beyond critical. That 3-legged stool, boy, when it's off balance, it just doesn't produce a great tennis journey. I encourage all parents to really understand the critical nature of their role in the journey. I think it's going to be different formula, how much involvement, whatever involvement, the attitude of the household can really, really impact the journey. And I met a lot of good parents down there, people that seem to be working hard to try to get it going the right direction. And it was a pleasure to be around many of them. But it's tough. It's tough. Like I said many times in speaking to the kids in the groups down there, it's just not going to fall on your lap. You got to go out and get it. It's shocking to me how many gems those kids were leaving on the court every day, even down in that setting. And like Coach Ilya said, I mean, getting on an airplane, spending the money, coming all that distance, whatever you do, and then you're going to bluff by not having an awareness of your mile time or even a desire to really improve it. And so there's a lot that has to be in order. And I think as coaches, we got to be our brother's keeper a little bit. Steve, I could go back to a quote I heard you say back in 85, 86. And, as coaches, teachers, we have to have a missionary zeal to get people to be able to practice. And I think it's more true now than it was then, I believe.
Oh, thanks. Go ahead, Ilya.
I'm going to steal this one from Dave. Big's greatest word that Steve said: start the course, stay the course. It just goes for coaches, for students, and for parents. Yeah, if it makes sense, I mean, get the emotions away. And again, the facts don't have emotions, don't have feelings. Be sober. Don't get drunk on emotions. And, it's bad emotions, when you lose, are as dangerous as winning emotions. So you have to stay sober and really see the straight line where you're going. I guess when you're losing, you're having more voices in your head. When you're winning, you have more voices outside of your head. So you just have to stay clear. at the same time, for students, got to be more of a giver than a taker. After this workshop, I'm hoping that some of the students will go back and find some neighboring kid and just start giving him lessons. That would be magic. That's what you hope for. And just look for the details. So this course, this 3-day course, it was a lot of covered, but at the same time, I was a little covered. Those tip of the iceberg. So you just have to be inspired to learn more and be a lifetime learner, lifetime student. And again, it's Christmas. So I just wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And wishing everybody Merry Christmas and enjoy your time with your family and be a giver.
No, thank you very much. When Dave said that, I didn't know what he was going to say. The 6 key words, the 6 best words I ever put together. I thought he was going to say Dave Anderson is the greatest ever. But
well, it was actually those are the 8 best words, but it was Dave Anderson is the greatest of all time.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the 6 best words are start the course, stay the course.
One thing I would say with the podcast, thanks for everybody for being part of it. But if you have a chance, you could listen to it a few minutes at a time. I didn't get through the whole podcast today, but I'll get through it. Mark Spann. Then that would lead you to want to listen to Julian Krinsky. Mark, he learned so much from Julian. He said he was the king of Murphy's Law. How's it go? If it will go wrong, or if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And remember back in the day, the famous psychologist Joyce Brothers said that Murphy was an optimist because it's going to go wrong, and then you want if you can know ahead of time, and that's where the tennis parents, for example, obviously the kids are too young, but to tell an adult, that your kid's got a palm up serve and the light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming right at them. Another way to say it is we got to stop the bleeding. But yeah, golden opportunity for us to meet more people and share what's been shared with us. But yeah, to everybody, Merry Christmas. Dave, Ilya, listeners, thank you very much. And another podcast in the books, and adios amigos, and on to 2026.
Here we go, baby.
All right.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
And a good night.
You too.